Hi everyone, welcome to our discussion on the direct 3-3 invasion. This is the second video after the introduction, the first one where I'll introduce some very basic patterns. Because there are many 3-3 invasion videos out there, I think most major channels would have this introduction because it's such a new and exciting AI Joseki. I'm trying to do it a little bit differently, I guess. So I'll start with the most basic thing that's beginner friendly, right? Because when we play this direct 3-3 invasion, we take the first two moves after number 5 for granted. The idea is for white to block from one side at the 3-4 point, and for black to crawl at the other 3-4 point. And if it's from this side, black will crawl on the other side. So this is the most common, and you almost never see any deviation from number 6 and 7, right? It's either this direction or that direction. It's just the direction. But number 6 is never elsewhere, right? So why isn't it elsewhere? Right? Why isn't it here or here or here or here? You might be wondering as a beginner. And the answer is that you want to put maximum pressure on number 5 by taking one of its liberties. Right? So whenever you have two stones like this and another stone bumped up against it, it's usually good for the side with two stones. And in this case, it's white. Right? So that, for example, if we have something here on the side, the idea is similar. Right? Number 6 and 8 is in a good position against number 7. This doesn't necessarily mean that number 7 is in a bad position, but it just means that white has a pretty good position here because it has a local advantage. It's 2 versus 1, and if black plays another move, then white has all kinds of options. Right? This hane is especially valuable and harsh when it's something here on the side, but of course white has a weakness here where you can just play solidly by extending. So that's the basic shape here. That's why you need to play number 6. But what if your opponent plays something else, like this? And the idea for black is actually the same. You just need to keep crawling. In this case, if it's something like this, then it's good for black compared to the Josekis that we're going to see, because white really puts no pressure on black, and black gets out very easily. If white plays right here, right, it's harsher, but black has this move. It's a really neat move. Now there are 2 cutting points on the outside, and white must connect one of them, right? Either this or that. And now black can hane on the second line, and may even get to play number 15. And number 16 is still valuable, although in this situation, AI says you can take sente as well as white. So if we get to this pattern, it favors black, because there is very little white can do to the corner. Very little white can do to threaten the corner. And this will be a 1 space difference from the Joseki that we're going to see, right? Which is this. We've already seen it in the introductory video, and we're going to learn this in our next video, because this is the most basic pattern. This variation is outdated, but if you don't play number 13 and 15, this is not outdated, and it's considered slightly better for black. But the difference here is that white still has all kinds of moves. The hane, let's take sente. White still has this hane, right? Potentially, if you have something going on the left side, then number 16 could be of help. But it's also threatening action on the corner, where you have this standing down on the second line, and black must play a move. Otherwise, black will get killed this way. By playing at number 6, white can leave the corner relatively vulnerable, right, in some situations. But if you do not keep up the pressure, then once black gets to play at the 3-4 point, the corner is very solid, and there's nothing white can play. There's nothing white can threaten, right? This will not be much of a threat, because black is already alive. Come in this way, black is still alive. There's just nothing for white to play after this move. So that is a big loss for white. And that is why this pattern is not viable for white. Of course, there's also this move, right? Trying to enclose black. And black's best option is to bump here and cut, right? It's probably better for white to extend here and play this cut. Right? So this will be a fight. This will be a fight. Something like this. So the corner is now not 100% alive, but both white groups are vulnerable on the outside. So this will get complicated, but AI says it slightly favors black. So that's number 6, right? This diagonal move, just not enough pressure on number 5. What about some of these other moves, right, on the second line? This doesn't really matter, right? If your opponent plays this, you just keep crawling. Just remember the crawl, right? And again, it will be something like this. And number 6 really does nothing. It's a very, very inefficient move on the second line. It's really doing nothing. Whereas number 6 here is taking away a liberty, is threatening to play the hane, sometime down the line, not right now, it's a much better move. Same with this move, right? You might be tempted to play this cut, but it's actually not the optimal move for black to play the push and cut at 7 and 9. And of course, in this situation, if the latter doesn't work, then black will escape and this will be a fight. The better solution for black is actually not to be tempted by the push and cut. Just crawl. Again, number 6 is just at the wrong position, right? So that's how you deal with these wrong moves. You just crawl on the other side and try to jump out, right? Because white cannot play this honey, right? This will be disastrous. If you get a stone captured here on the 3rd line like this, then this will clearly favor black because black gets out on the 4th line. And that is huge because if you play a proper Joseki, black only gets out on the 2nd line. That's really important to remember. And even now, white still doesn't have the hane. There's just too many cutting points. There's just too many cutting points. Right? So number 6 doesn't work. Of course, moves like this really don't exist. Right? If it's something like this, whenever you swallow a stone that's basically wasted, it's good for black. You can argue white has a wall on the outside, but the idea for white is that you shouldn't just let black live that easily. It's not a guarantee that black will live after every Joseki. And that's the key point to remember. Some of these Josekis, white can potentially trigger a ko, potentially, or even kill black with some threats on the outside. But if you play number 6, just sacrificing the stone, then black is completely alive in sente. Definitely not worth it. What about this? Another tricky move. Just crawl. Because number 4 and 6 are disconnected. They cannot connect. It's another wasted move on the 2nd line. Right? You don't want to block here. If you block here, then white can now block from one side. You play here, then of course number 6 will work because black is very small on the corner. But even this favors black according to AI. Though I think white is not necessarily in a bad shape. The solution is just keep crawling, right? Because these two stones cannot connect, black will have no trouble handling the situation. Just keep crawling. So that's number 6. As we can see, only this block makes sense in this situation. And in 99% of situations, I would say, maybe 100, you have to block from one side when your opponent plays the direct 3-3 invasion. What about black? We take this for granted as well, and this is the correct move in about 95% of the situations. When the board is empty like this, 100%. When white is very strong on the outside, and you really want to make a living shape, then black might consider other options, right? Like this diagonal move that helps ensure that black can live, or increases the chance of black living on the corner. So black cannot play on the 2nd line. You play something like this, then this is too small. It can live, but this is way too small compared to the Josekis that black can play. If you play this hane, then it's the wrong direction. White will play from this side. Now there's the cutting point. Black will have to play the tiger's mouth. White ataris here. Black connects. And now white can just keep playing on the 3rd line. And black will have to capture this stone to stay alive. And white can take sente. And white has a pretty efficient shape on the outside. And black's corner is just not big enough. And white has sente. So this favors white. Similarly, if you play here, right, it's a living shape. But again, white can just go back to the pattern we just saw, right? From another direction. This is just from another direction. When the board is empty, it doesn't really matter at this point. We'll go back to the previous pattern, and it still favors white. So that's why these moves don't really exist. You just have to keep crawling on the 3rd line. So that's my goal for this video, actually just explaining why we have to play at number 6 and 7, because these two moves are really a given. They're just taken for granted now, and no one really cares to take the time to explain them. So if you're already an advanced player, obviously you don't need this video, but if you're a beginner, I think it's fun and interesting to know, right, why they're here. I always ask why. Even if stronger players take something for granted, they don't care to explain, you have to ask why. You have to understand everything. And that's how you improve fast in this game. If you don't ask why, you just take things for granted. If you don't calculate things and see things for yourself, then it's hard to improve. So that's, I think, the key takeaway from this lesson. And after these two moves, we used to think, right, that number 8 right here, this hane, is a really harsh move. And it's a must. This is where things get really interesting, right? Because number 6 and 7, it's like human players and AI both agree that these two are necessary moves for both sides. But human players used to think this Hane is really harsh. It's reducing black's liberties, and it's forcing black to the second line. So what's wrong with this move? Why is this move not optimal? And that's a much, much harder question to answer, right? Why is this extension or this small knight's move better than this Hane? That's very counterintuitive. So we'll explain the Hane first because it's relatively simple, it's a little outdated. Then we will look at this extension and the small knight's move in the next few videos. And things will get more complicated. So please stay tuned. As always, if you have any questions, please leave them in the comment section below. Best of luck to you all, and I'll see you in the next video. Thank you for watching.